We have a time where the possibilities of somebody getting addicted to something is quite high. We have youth and we have even adults that are getting addicted to many items and many things out there. In the past, it was getting addicted to only a few things, but today there are games one can get addicted to, movies, pornography, gambling. One can get addicted to all sorts of vices, and there is an endless part of taking a person losing themselves in taking drugs, in moving from the life of obedience to the life of disobedience. Now, what happens is it's a vicious cycle, because when somebody gets into the habit of getting addicted, it's a cycle they go through where there is a temptation, there is an urge, and the urge grows, and as the urge grows, it tempts them to do the action, and slowly the mind tells them that it's okay, let me just do it once more, let me just do it once more, this will be my last time. And a person does it, and once they've done it, then there's regret, and a person wants to say to themselves, why did I do it? Why was I so weak to do this thing? And then slowly a person falls down and says, I want to make a good intention right now that I'm not going to do this again. And a person makes a good intention to stop sinning and stop getting into this habit of addiction. Days go by and the person has the intention, but after a few days, the person, his urge starts to be recreated for that thing, whether it's zina, whether it's gambling, whether it's pornography, whether it's doing something like taking drugs and so on. It's an urge that comes within oneself, and then they want to do it again, they want to commit again. Now, this thing repeats itself. As long as the person is continuous in this rhythm and they've got the elements around them, the urge continues within them. What happens eventually is that the person can lose themselves in what they, in how they are, what they do, and the shaitan can completely finish them off. Now, the topic is, I hate it, but why can't I stop it? I hate it, but why can't I stop it? Well, my friend, what happens with the nature of sin is that each time a person sins, there is a black dot that is placed onto the heart. Each time a person does a good deed, there is a white dot placed onto the heart. Each time a person does another good deed, there is another white dot on the heart, until it will go completely white, and there will only be the nur of Allah.S.W.T, and a person will only want to be inclined towards Allah. And if the reverse happens, and a person commits a bad deed, then that bad deed will bring a black dot onto the heart. The angel will throw a black dot onto the heart. And if a person continues to sin again, there will be another black dot onto the heart. And a person sins again, there will be another black dot onto the heart. Until the heart feels a kind of rustiness, and the heart feels that it is becoming hard. And the heart becomes such that the heart does not necessarily want to accept the good message that Allah has kept in the Quran and the Sunnah. And if a person is very clean-hearted, the moment they open the Quran, they will have tears coming down their eyes. إنما المؤمنون الذين آمنوا بالله ورسوله. Believers are those who believe in Allah and His Messenger. إذا ذكر الله وجلت قلوبهم وإذا تليت عليهم آياته زادتهم إيمانهم. When Allah's name is mentioned, their hearts start to tremble. When Allah's mention is mentioned in front of them, when Allah's name is taken, then their hearts begin to tremble. وَإِذَا تُلِيَتْ عَلَيْهِمْ آيَاتُهُ زَادَتْهُمْ إِيمَانًا. And when the ayats of the Quran are recited, then the iman goes up. This is the believer. The believer listens to the Quran, believer's iman increases. As for the person who has got hypocrisy inside them, they've got a marad or a disease inside them, as for that person, Allah.S.W.T makes the reverse happen. That person listens to the Quran, they don't feel much. That person listens to Allah's name, they don't feel nothing. It's like, okay Allah. It's like, I've heard Allah. Just like you might talk about Jack, you might talk about Ruby, you might talk about, some other Darren, whoever you talk about, it's just a name. And the same way Allah's name is a name. But the believer doesn't see the same. The believer, for him, Allah means something different. The believer sees Allah as what? He sees Allah as Allahu Nuru Samawati wal Ard. Allah is the light of the heavens and the earth. Allah is the one that creates light in the heavens and the earth. Allah is the one that creates light in the heart, and Allah is the one that creates light in the body. Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam used to pray, Allahumma ja'al fi basari noora. Oh Allah, give me noor and light in my eyes. Waj'al fi sam'i noora. Oh Allah, give me light in my ears. Waj'al fi lisani noora. Oh Allah, give me light in my tongue. Waj'al fi qalbi noora. Oh Allah, give me light in my heart. Waj'alni noora. Waj'alni noora. Waj'alni noora. Oh Allah, make me light. Oh Allah, make me light. Oh Allah, make me light. A believer sees Allah as the source of light, the source of guidance, the source of the one who actually transforms the heart of the believer and makes the believer inclined towards Allah. For the believer to be inclined towards Allah, a believer needs to stop sinning with the eyes. For the believer to be connected to Allah, a believer needs to stop sinning with the ears. For the believer to feel the great presence of Allah and like to actually remember Allah, a believer needs to stop sinning with the tongue and sinning with the heart, because the heart actually becomes rusty and hard with the sins that go directly inside. And when a believer refuses to sin because he is remembering Allah, then Allah is remembering the believer. How? إذا ذكرني عبدي في نفسه ذكرته في نفسي. When my believer will remember me in his heart, I will remember him in my exalted being. إذا ذكرني في ملأ. When my believer will remember me in a gathering, ذكرته في ملأ خير منه. I will remember the believer, I will remember him, I will remember my servant in a gathering better than that. Allah remembers us in the gathering of the angels when we remember Allah in our hearts. So I'm going to ask you to do something. I'm going to ask everybody here to do something. We're going to take Allah's name. Are you guys ready? Are you guys ready? Guys, are you ready? Okay, bismillah. Allah, 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 Allah. Take Allah's name. Allah, 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 Allah. Allah, 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 You just took Allah's name. Allah.S.W.T from His greatest existence. Right now, when you took His name, Allah said, if your name is Jamal. Allah said, Jamal, 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 Jamal. If your name was Mustafa, 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 Mustafa. If your name was Zainab, 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 Zainab. If your name was, whatever name it might be, Maryam, it is Maryam, 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 Maryam. On this earth you say, Allah, 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 Allah. Allah says what? Allah says Hassan, Hassan, Hassan. Allah says Mustafa, Allah says Zakaria, Allah says Musa, Musa, Musa. This is why. فَاذْكُرُونِي أَذْكُرُكُمْ. You remember me, my servants. أَذْكُرُكُمْ. I will remember you, my servants. فَاذْكُرُونِي أَذْكُرُكُمْ وَاشْكُرُوا لِي وَلَا تَكْفُرُونَ. You show your thanks to me and don't be ungrateful to me. As long as you remember me, I will remember you. إِذَا تَقَرَّبَ إِلَيَّ عَبْدِي شِبْرًا. When my servant will come one span's length towards me, تَقَرَّبْتُ إِلَيْهِ ذِرَاعًا. I will come a whole arm's length towards my servant. This is a hadith in Bukhari. إِذَا تَقَرَّبَ إِلَيَّ عَبْدِي ذِرَاعًا. When my servant will come near me and draw near me by one arm's length, تَقَرَّبْتُ إِلَيْهِ بَاعًا. I will come two whole arm lengths towards my servant. إِذَا أَتَانِي مَشْيًا. When my servant decides that he's going to walk towards me, أَتَيْتُهُ هَرْوَلًا. I will start to run towards my servant. Allah comes running towards the servant when the servant wants to just walk towards Allah. Allahu Akbar. Now this is the deal we have with Allah. Allah has revealed the Quran. The Quran has got nur. The Quran has got light. And if me and you want the light, we have to use the Quran as the Quran has been revealed. Which means what? When you recite the Quran, my brothers and sisters, if you want to get to know Allah, then just recite the Quran. But if you want to get to know what's happening inside you, then start to think about the Quran. If you want to get to know just Allah, then just recite the Quran. Is beautiful. But if you want to get to know what's going inside you, then start to contemplate in the Quran and see the meanings of the Quran. And when we come to our salah, my brothers, my sisters, one way of sinning is that this salah itself is supposed to stop us from sinning. Allah says what? أُتْلُ مَا أُوحِيَ إِلَيْكَ مِنَ الْكِتَابِ وَأَقِمِ الصَّلَاةَ إِنَّ الصَّلَاةَ تَنْهَى عَنِ الْفَحْشَاءِ وَالْمُنكَرِ وَلَذِكْرُ اللَّهِ أَكْبَرُ وَاللَّهُ يَعْلَمُ مَا تَصْنَعُونَ. My servant, recite the Quran, recite it again and again. What kind of recitation? وَرَتِّلِ الْقُرْآنَ تَرْتِيلًا. Recite the Quran steadily, recite the Quran, that the Quran steadily goes inside you and starts to transform you inside. وَأَقِمِ الصَّلَاةَ. And start to stand in front of me and pray in front of me. What kind of prayer? إِنَّ الصَّلَاةَ تَنْهَى عَنِ الْفَحْشَاءِ وَالْمُنكَرِ. My servant, when you will pray the right type of salah, that salah will stop you from sinning. When you actually pray the right type of salah, that salah will make you stop going towards obscenity. When you do the right salah, you will draw near me and you will want to remember me. وَلَذِكْرُ اللَّهِ أَكْبَرُ. The greatest of the whole of salah, the greatest about the Quran is my remembrance. When you remember me, then I will transform you inside. When you remember me, I will clean you inside. When you connect your mind and your tongue with me, I will make sure that from your mind right down to your tongue and right down to your heart, I will clean all of that for you. Allah.S.W.T cleans the process when we get the tongue and the mind thinking about Allah. Now what's the difference between that? Ibn al-Qayyim Jawzi rahimahullah and many ulama as well have said there are three ways of remembering Allah. One is merely just with the tongue. Another one is merely just with the heart. And another one is when you do the tongue and the heart together. So I'm sure you've seen certain people they will have a tasbih in their hand and they're going to be rotating the tasbih. I say, hey boy, what happened boy? What happened boy? What's his dhikr? Is his dhikr, what happened boy, what happened boy, what happened boy, what happened boy? What's his dhikr? Because how can you rotate the tasbih and be talking to someone? It should automatically stop because you're not really thinking about Allah Azza.W.T. and your tongue is not really taking Allah's name. So that's people who actually just do with the tongue and the mind is absent. And that's the lowest form of dhikr. If you're saying Subhanallah, but you're thinking about something else, you do get still some reward, but it's not going to make the transformation you want inside yourself. The higher form of dhikr to that is when the mind is present. Now when the mind is present and the tongue is not present, then a person is just thinking about Allah. أن تعبد الله كأنك تراه. You serve Allah in a way as though you are seeing Him. فإن لم تكن تراه فإنه يراك. And though you cannot see Him, you should know that He is always watching you. This is the mind only thinking about Allah. And there's another one which is the best form of dhikr. That is when the tongue and the heart both are thinking of Allah. The tongue and the mind, both the heart, everything is just thinking about Allah.